Nibiru is a narrative-focused sci-fi tabletop RPG written by Araukana Media, where a branch of humanity somehow got thrown into a massive space station and lived within it ever since, forming a completely alien society where the concept of sun, moon, day, night, and even horizon never existed. Instead, the civilization centered itself around the core, a gigantic nuclear power plant that works in cycle, powering the space station and providing a sense of time. But you are not playing as these people. You too are foreigners in this sunless world. You are vagabonds, people with lost memories that, for whatever reasons, start to recollect in your mind. When I first read about this, I thought this is obvious. The players are humans thrown from Earth to Nibiru, slowly remembering their past life from Earth. Then it turns out, this is just one out of 5 types of vagabonds. Vagabonds of the machine are people who remembered their past life of being a servant AI, with knowledge of a lost tongue that lets them speak to the station itself. Vagabonds of the wild are people who are a little wild, with their past life being that of a creatures crawling within the station, with a node in their brain that lets them connect with the Leviathan, the mother of all beasts, to be controlled, or to access other creatures. Vagabonds of the dreamlands have lived countless life. Their memories do not have to be from someone already dead, it could very much come from the living, even fellow vagabonds, letting them be intimate with even former strangers. Vagabonds of the bright town, is you, who long to return because frankly speaking, a sunless world to someone who knew the warmth of the sun sucks, and sometimes, you might find things that fell from bright town, letting you remember more of your past. Then there's vagabonds of dreadlands, vagabond who actually has falsified memory of a terrible fictional past, created by a parasite called Nightmare that lived within them, which you can use like a Pokemon to beat up people with, and it grows stronger the more falsified past you remember. Does that pique your interest? Good, then I will now tell you how to play the game. To start it off, you gonna want a bunch of D4, and to resolve most basic actions, which I have to remind you, this is a narrative-focused game, so the narrator really shouldn't make the players roll for every goddamn thing and should only for action with significant outcome. You roll 3d4 and a 4 in any amount means you pass the roll, and when you get better or worse at a specific action, you get more or less dice. Of course, the question now is how do you get better, or worse? This is where the memo system comes in. With the heavy focus on memory in Nibiru, it obviously comes with a significant effect for the players. 1. It lets the player to write a story for their character that's set in the past, and 2. This allows their past to affect the present, by giving them strength and weakness. To remember your past, the most basic way to do it is by doing it when performing an action. You can immediately write a flashback to your past, and have it affect your action in the present, like say, you remember that you worked as a computer technician before, so it lets you patch up the control system of your air barge just in time to avoid crashing into a wall. To do so, you need to first decide whether it is a positive memory or a negative one. A positive memory requires you to spend memory points to create a permanent bonus at a specific action. It also lets you automatically passes the action roll. A negative memory is obviously the opposite, gaining you memory points, making you terrible at things, and automatically failing the roll. To sum it up, you want to get better at things, you want to get more memory points, whether by completing a game session, following your beacons, which is unique for all vagabond types, and by creating negative memories. You also have to, actually write the memory, and the longer it is, the better, you will understand later. You could also get memories through rule of 3, by rolling 3-4 with your dices, or rolling 3-1 and no 4, it's like you did something so awesome or so disastrous that you will remember the consequence as a testimony to your skill or lack thereof. Memories created through this has no memory point cost, in either direction, and could give +1 or -1 to an action type as an effect. You might be asking, what is the point of writing all these memories, even bad ones? Well, other than it letting the players create their character's backstory fluidly by letting the story shapes their history, by filling a journal page, you can also purchase revelations, powerful narrative abilities that give a twist to the story. For examples, Revelation of the Thief lets you look into someone's deepest memory, Revelation of the Companion lets you get the memory of a person you remember in your past life, and eventually they will make their way to your group. Revelation of the Mourner lets you cry black tears that cause anyone that drink it to immediately undergo a mental stress, which gets worse the more bad memories you have, and Revelation of the Painter, which lets you, instead of writing in memory, draw it in the blank space, counting as 4 lines or more, which is useful when you purchase a revelation as it will cost you 4 memory points, but you can reduce it by having negative memories, memories from rule of 3, and writing out really long memories. Revelations also come in 2 forms, Active or passive? Passive works all the time, while active one costs 3 influence points to activate. Influence points are also used to, well, directly influence the story itself, hence the name, whether it's rerolling dice, adding more details to a scene, and more. You get these by performing great role-playing feats and moments, as determined by the narrator. You also get 1 point at the end of a session so nobody get left out. Rolling back to action a bit, there's one other thing that affect your dices, besides using tools you could possibly get: gravity. As a reminder, Nibiru is a spin station, generating artificial gravity through spinning. This also means that the closer you are to the center, the weaker gravity is. The further you are, however, the stronger it gets. For each band you cross, you can move a dot up or down from your stable zone. Moving closer to the core means up, moving away means down, and this modifier affects all of your rolls. So you probably don't want to move too far out of the core sector too quickly, but sometimes you have no choice anyway. Also, at the end of each session, the dot moves one band closer to your stable zone as your body adapts itself to the gravity, for better or worse. Also, here's the rest of your character sheet. I really like the heart and brain as symbols for your body and mind. It really reminds me of something. So, what the heck is body and mind? Body is, well, your body. It's basically your health, coming in 3 states: okay, beaten, and wounded. Okay is okay, obviously. Beaten is just you getting scratched up. It moves back to okay at the end of scene. Wounded is a rather big hit. It's gonna take you a while to get back up. Also impose a 1 dice penalty to all physical rolls, take more damage, and you just died. In case that wasn't clear, violence is very lethal in Nibiru. It's very much the last resort to a situation, so I suggest you get smart in solving a problem. Mind, on the other hand, tracks your mind, as sometimes you face stressful situation that can really stress your mind, forcing you to roll for contested stress test against whatever that freaks you out. There's actually 4 states of mind. Okay and stressed are normal, no effect here. Shaken confers 1 dice penalty to everything, and becoming broken has a lasting effect on your character, as you could get symptom that could have a large impact on your character. Succeeding too well in the stress test could also be bad, as it makes you detached, showing your unhealthy degree of insensitivity to an abnormal situations. That also add a symptom to your character. Both add a memory to your journal, -1 to an action for broken, and +1 for detached. Also, on any journal page with a symptom, you can't use it to purchase revelation with, so better not get too good or too bad with the roll. Worse, get 3 symptoms, and your character is completely out too. If you, like me, doesn't really enjoy the prospect of having their character being mentally broken when anxiety is already the worst fucking enemy, you could just use the simplified version where there's no symptom to affect whatsoever. By now, you basically have a firm grasp on the system, but you probably still have the question of why do I want to play this. It was a question I'm asking myself when I'm writing the script, as honestly it isn't that clear. Then it started to dawn on me as I kept reading through the book. When you create your character, even with the backstory of how they adjust to life within the station, their past was an unknown, and it's something you have to figure out as you play through the campaign to figure out the locations and people within the station. Effectively, you and your character are just as clueless as to what happened with their past as well as what's going on in the station. Essentially, the core gameplay for Nibiru is discovery of either your character's past, or the station around them, and it is really an interesting setting as most sci-fi settings are focused on one thing: space! Nibiru is still in space. It's a space station after all, but its inhabitants have no idea about this. This station, even after millennia of exploring it, is all they have known, and even then, they haven't explored the majority of it. There's the low-gravity core sector, Antumbra, where most population of the station lived because water, fuel, and light are in easy access, but instead of material struggle, there's a societal struggle that could ripple through the whole station, for better or worse. The outer reaches, Penumbra, where lack of light, scarce water supply, faltering life support, and the dangers hidden beneath the mantle of perpetual shadow are ever present. Its people are fighting to gain autonomy of their own to be truly free from the tyrant of the core sector. And the edge of the world, Umbra, high gravity zone that crushes those unprepared for it. Technology barely works under the intense pressure, much less people not adapted to it. A truly wild and hostile environment that could potentially expose the truth of Nibiru, if one can survive the journey. All these locations make for a very exciting but dangerous world, and almost every page on the setting has small sections for tale spark to spark a story, as well as lists to let you know why you want to go to these places in the first place. I didn't even talk about the various machines built to serve humanity, the alien flora and fauna that inhabited the station, and many more. There's even an introduction campaign close to the end of the book to familiarize both the players and the narrator if necessary. And that's all on Nibiru, a rather unique sci-fi TTRPG with a narrative focus on finding memories. Personally speaking, I really enjoyed reading this book on the setting of Nibiru. It's really something I would actually call unique, unlike a lot of sci-fi medias I have already seen. Though I have to say it was kinda awkward that the book immediately starts with 100 pages of lore before even telling you how to play the game, but I guess it was necessary with how most people would be unfamiliar with the concept of living in a space station so massive that the concept of outside was an unknown. Anyway, you can get it now on itch.io and Drive-Thru RPG. That's all for now, and I will see you all next time. Hello there, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell button. If you really want to support my channel, you could visit my Patreon page, or buy me some coffee, links in the description. Anyway, have a nice day.